All right, let's talk about something really cool. A technology that's totally changing the game for keeping our food safe and fresh. And it does it by, well, giving it a little shock.
It's the classic dilemma, right? For forever, it seems the answer has been heat, pasteurization. And yeah, it makes our food safe, but let's be honest, it often kills that amazing fresh taste, the vibrant color, and even some of the good stuff, the vitamins. So what if there was a better way?
Well, imagine a way to get all the safety without all that damaging heat. I'm talking about a non-thermal approach, one that keeps food tasting and looking the way it's supposed to. And believe it or not, that technology is here, and it's all about electricity. So let's dive in and see how this whole thing works. Okay, so what we're talking about here is something called pulsed electric field processing. You'll hear it called PEF for short, and trust me, it's a total game changer for food preservation.
So what is it really? Think of PEF as pasteurization, but without the heat. Instead of cooking things, it uses these super short, really powerful zaps of electricity to make the food safe. And the key thing here is that word non-thermal. Because there's no heat, the food stays way, way closer to its natural fresh state.
And the difference is, well, it's night and day. On one hand, you've got the old way, thermal pasteurization, heat. It works, for sure, but it's kind of like a sledgehammer. It can mess with the vitamins, change the flavor. But on the other hand, you have PEF. It hits the same safety targets, but without all that collateral damage. You get to keep all those fresh-from-the-farm qualities we all love.
Okay, this all sounds amazing, but how in the world does zapping food with electricity actually kill off the bad stuff, the microbes? Well, the science behind it is actually pretty fascinating.
It all comes down to one core principle, and it's got a great name: electroporation. Basically, it's all about what those zaps of electricity do to the germs at a microscopic level.
So how does this electroporation thing actually work? I love this one explanation I read. It put it so perfectly. It said the process basically works by planting holes in cells. How great is that? It's such a simple way to picture what's happening.
Okay, let's break it down step by step. First, you've got your liquid, say some juice, and it flows between two electrodes. Then, bam! It gets hit with these incredibly fast, high-voltage pulses. We're talking microseconds long. That's how fast. These zaps create tiny, permanent holes in the cell walls of the microbes. And finally, all the important stuff inside the microbe just leaks out. And just like that, the microbe is toast. It's like a super-targeted little attack that leaves the good food molecules totally alone.
And look, this isn't some sci-fi thing that's years away. PF is already out there, being used in the food industry right now. And you'll find it in some places you'd expect, and some that might totally surprise you.
So the most obvious use is for anything you can pump through a pipe, right? It's perfect for things like fruit juices, keeps them safe while saving all those vitamins. But it's also used for milk, liquid eggs, smoothies, you name it. Even stuff like salsas and sauces. In every single case, you get a longer shelf life and top-notch safety, but without sacrificing taste, texture, and all that good nutrition.
But this is where the story takes a really interesting turn. You might think this is just for liquids, right? Nope. One of its biggest uses commercially is for a solid food pretty much everyone loves, the humble potato.
It turns out if you pre-treat potatoes with a slightly gentler PEF pulse, you get these amazing results. The electricity actually softens up the potato, which means it's way easier to slice into French fries. Think about it. That saves a ton of wear and tear on the cutting equipment. Plus, the fries don't break as easily, they dry faster, and you get a much better final texture. It's a win-win-win.
But get this, the absolute biggest benefit is insane. Because the PEF treatment changes the potato cell structure, it means the fries soak up way less oil when they're being fried. How much less? We're talking a reduction of up to 50%. That is huge. It means you get a crispier, less greasy, and yeah, a lower fat French fry. And it's all thanks to a quick little zap of electricity.
Okay, so PEF sounds pretty amazing, right? But of course, no technology is perfect. It's not a silver bullet. So while the advantages are huge, we also need to look at the other side of the coin, the limitations.
All right, let's lay it out. The pros, it's fantastic at keeping nutrients and flavor. It's actually really energy efficient, and it helps cut down on food waste, like with those potatoes. Now the cons. The startup cost for the equipment is steep. It works best on liquids and pumpable stuff. And this is a big one, it doesn't kill off really tough bacterial spores or viruses. So for now, you can't use it for total sterilization all by itself. But even though that initial investment is a big hurdle, once you're up and running, the costs are incredibly low. I mean, some industry estimates say it costs just 4 cents to pasteurize a whole liter of juice. 4 cents. So once you've made the leap, it's super economical.
And just to be clear, this is not some fringe experimental science. In the US, for example, PEF is totally compliant with FDA rules for processing juice. It meets that gold standard for safety, what they call a 5-log reduction in pathogens. So yeah, this is a trusted, approved technology that's ready for the big time. So what's next for PEF? Where does it go from here? Well, the potential is just massive, especially when you think about how our tastes and demands are changing.
I mean, think about it. The plant-based milk and beverage market is exploding, right? PEF is a perfect match for that. And what about the whole clean label movement? You know, foods with simple ingredients you can actually pronounce. PEF is a huge deal there because you don't need to add a bunch of chemical preservatives. At the end of the day, it's a major tool for making our food system more sustainable and just better.
So that leaves us with one last question to chew on. We all seem to want the same thing, right? Food that's safe, but also fresh, natural, with as little processing as possible. So is it possible that the key to all of that is just a simple, controlled burst of electricity? It's kind of a shocking idea, but maybe in the best possible way.